Page 24, Minuet in G. Very famous melody. Some people say Bach wrote it. No, Bach didn't actually write it. We're not really sure who wrote it for sure, but it's probably this person they sang up here. It's attributed to this Christian something or other. Don't care who wrote it. It's pretty. We use it. About every piano student plays this eventually. At the top of the page, they talk a little bit about Baroque music. You see, music has evolved over the centuries, and they have different time periods for everything, no matter what it is. And music has it. So Baroque, you can look up and Google what Baroque is and the history of music and all that junk. And they're also listing or showing some dynamic marks. Hopefully you know what these are by now. I mean, I hope so. It's just, you also need to know the Italian words, the piano, forte, mezzo forte, and mezzo piano, because you're liable to run into it when somebody's talking or you're reading about it. You're liable to run into these things. You need to know what they are. And dynamics, it's part of the process I use to learn a piece of music. So let's go through that process with this. I look it over. I see it's 2 pages long. There are repeat signs, so it's actually going to be twice as long because the whole thing is repeated at one time or another. Treble and bass clef, at least to start. 1 sharp in the key signature. We are in G major. It's in the title, Minuet in G. So be sure and do the scale for G major and E minor, because that has 1 sharp, and do the arpeggios too. And again, with these scales and arpeggios, if you're not comfortable with the scale, just 1 octave. Get comfortable with the scale and the arpeggio first. And then once you're comfortable with the scale and you can do it, it's okay. You don't have to look at the keyboard for it. You can feel it okay. Then you can go to the 2 octaves. Don't rush it on those. You don't need to spend a lot of time on scales and arpeggios. It's just a few minutes each day is what does it. And then 3/4 time signature. A minuet is generally in 3/4 time. And you can Google what a minuet is. I don't want to get into that right now. I want to take it one hand at a time. I want a fingering that lets me connect the notes if I can get it. We'll start with their suggested fingering, but I don't know. So at the beginning, you'll notice on these first 4 notes, that's just a G major arpeggio going up. And don't forget the F sharp. 1 and 2. Then you can do a 3 if you want. That's a stretch. So I can in measure 5. I can do a 4 and then a 3 because they're repeated notes. You can change hand positions on repeated notes. I can actually do a 5 and a 3. Scrunch up 4. Now on measure 8, I don't want a thumb on that dotted half note. It's handy, it's there. The problem is in measure 9, I need a thumb on this note. I don't want a thumb there. I want to prepare for the next note. So I'm simply going to use 2nd finger. Just come down. Now my thumb is ready. I can go on. Now let's go down to measure 14. Triplets, 1 enda. 1 enda or triplet, because in measure 15, that first note is on beat 1. The D, the next quarter note, that is on beat 2. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. So that triplet, 1 enda or triplet. And remember the 4 notes, the triplet and the note after. Those 4 notes all got to be even. So, and so. Now going on, measure 17 with 3rd finger. Reach up. Now if you can't reach that, that's okay, because that's a stretch. You can move, but you reach out a little bit so you don't have to move as far. Here, we're just going a little ways. Measure 22, end up with 2nd finger because we have a triplet. Triplet. And measure 24, you don't need the natural sign, it's a natural anyway, but you just had a D sharp, they're being clear. It's just, don't get the idea that you have to have the natural sign or it would be in a sharp, because it isn't. It's a natural anyway. Now, let's look at measures 25, 26, and 27. It's a pattern of notes, and it's the same pattern in each measure. It's going down the keyboard. Here, It's the same pattern of notes. We call this a sequence. Sequence is a pattern of notes that goes up or down the keyboard. In piano, we try and finger it, if we can, the same. The pattern the same each time. So it's 4, 4, 4. That's what we're doing here. Because we could finger it other ways. Other ways. But again, it's a good habit to get into. I encourage it. When you see a sequence like this going up or down, see if you can finger all those patterns the same. 4, 4, 4. See those repeated notes? That's where I'm changing. And crossover. Measure 31 is 4th finger, because I need a little finger here. And then you go back to like you were at the beginning. Left hand, let's see what it's doing. We got here, and then arpeggio. And I use 4th finger, they do 2, finally they do. Because some teachers would teach 3rd, I don't. And then measure 5. 4, and measure 8. I can connect them all. Now, measure 17, we're here. 4th finger? Yeah, I don't know. I don't want to go from here to here. So I'm going to just reach up his thumb and then cross over here. So measure 17 again is here. And it's thumb, 2. This lets me connect them. Measure 25, we're here, and 3, 4. Going from measure 28 to 29. I'm going from here to here. That's a stretch. So yeah, you're gonna lift up and move. And just go ahead and do it. Now, on measures 29 and 30, here, I'm just rotating. I'm just passing weight from one finger to the other and walking on the piano is all it is. It's here to here. Same technique I use for everything else. I'm just passing weight from finger to finger. You practice this with the scales and arpeggios. We're just passing weight. Now we put the hands together and see what we end up with. And I'll hesitate, but that's okay. That's just here, and then here, and then here. You do that again. Okay, I don't want to go put it all together. I already did. You put it together. And then go back over it like just a line or two at a time. And get rid of the hesitation. Keep it slow. Slow. I think that's slow. Maybe that's too fast. You want to slow it down because the 8th, that's fine. Use a metronome if you need to. The whole thing has to be a steady speed, no hesitations anywhere. We'll speed it up later. Now, once I have the hesitations gone, then I will try the articulation. And back in this time, they didn't put in articulation in the music. They just gave you the notes. They didn't give you dynamics or anything else. They just gave you the notes. Like they're doing here. Isn't that nice? You were expected to know how to interpret it. Well, you can find editions of this music with articulation and dynamics written in. That's somebody's edited it. That's their opinion of what it should be. So who knows, somebody else would do it different. That's okay. However, I'll give you a few things to think about. These arpeggios, you can connect those. Just connect those. But then at the end of measure 8, going to measure 9, lift up. It's a new phrase, like taking a breath. Okay, in the left hand, when the notes are farther apart like this, I separate them. But then you can connect that. It's imitating the right hand. Disconnect. So I'm separating farther apart and connecting the next note. The challenge is, can you do both at the same time? Here. Lift up here, but connect that. measure 5, it's hard to do, but it's good practice. This way, you like measure 18 when you're here. This is how they get away with that fingering, because you're separating the notes anyway. So, but the right hand, you can lift up here. You have to, because you got to move. Measure 25. Yeah, you could connect all that together if you want to. Like so. There you separate, and then here, connect. So that's the only suggestions I would have on the articulation. To try and experiment a little bit about lifting up sometimes when the notes are farther apart, that sort of thing for the left hand. And the right hand, you lift up for the phrasing. Otherwise, I'm pretty much connecting the right hand. Not that you need to. You could lift up too. Like in measure 21, it's here. I could do that. You can experiment with the articulation. Your teacher can help you out with that. If you don't have a teacher, I encourage you to find one. Get one, but get a qualified one, because anybody can teach piano, whether they know how or not. There's no requirements for it. So when you're looking for a teacher, ask them what their music education is. Do they have any degrees, college degrees or anything? Because if they do, the chances are they know a little more. They've had a better foundation of what's going on. Doesn't make them a good teacher, but at least it's a start. Anyway, let's go on. Let's see, we did articulation, then I do dynamics. And here, they don't give us any dynamics. You can put them in. If you figure out where they go pretty much to the right hand for the most part. Now, measures 1 and 2 is the same as measures 3 and 4. And when you have the same like this, generally we will do the second time softer. It's like an echo. So the first 2 measures you might do moderately loud. And then this comes down to soft. And then go back up. And then loud, soft, loud. Now, measure 17, I recommend somewhere about a moderately soft in here. You're kind of playing around with the dynamics, so experiment with it. Don't play the whole thing at one dynamic or a whole section at one dynamic. You have to explore this. Like measure 29, maybe you come down a little bit here, louder, louder, loud, soft, loud. You get the idea of what I'm trying to do. Explore the dynamic possibilities. And again, your teacher can help you. Take a pencil and you write in the dynamic approximately where you're at, where it goes in the music. Yeah, and that's your interpretation. As far as speed goes, again, in this music back in this time, they did not guide the speed. You were expected to know. But at this time, you could use the time signature as an indication, sort of, on speed. And a minuet is like a dance. Well, it is a dance, actually. It's a hoity-toity, high-class aristocratic dance. It's what they did in the palaces. When the peasants were waltzing and having fun, the high society people were minuetting. Until the high society people realized the waltz was more fun, and then they started doing that. But think of dancing. 1, 2, 3, just a gentle dance. So 1, 2, 3, 1, somewhere in there. There's no set speed. You just experiment. You don't go slow. Well, when you're first learning it, you do. But when you take it up to speed, you don't go slow. And it certainly isn't going to be fast. 1, 2, 3. No, that's out of character. It's just somewhere in the middle. Now it is repeated. You get a repeat sign at the end of measure 18, sends you back to the beginning. And the repeat sign at the end there, bottom of page 25, that sends you back to measure 17 to the reverse repeat sign. It's in sections. The 2 sections, you're just doing each section twice. There's lots of recordings of this available. Just search for Minuet in G. It may say Bach because it's in one of his books. He put it in one of his books, but he didn't necessarily actually compose it. But just Bach Minuet in G or Minuet in G, and you'll probably find it. Yeah.